What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So you know we love to count things down. We had our top 5 packs, our top 5 skill moves, all of those things. So when we got approached by one of the best players in head-to-head, Djmixfoo, and an analytics genius in Aris to do a top 10 player countdown, you know that we could not say no to this opportunity. So we partnered up with Aris, who you may know from the Discord, from the Reddit. If you don't already, there's a link down to his channels there in the description below, as well as the article that basically goes into full depth of everything we're going to talk about today with the rankings, with the countdown, all of those things as well. The gameplay footage that we're going to show you throughout this also comes from Djmixfoo's player reviews. So if you want to see the full review of those players, there are links to his YouTube channel and each of those full reviews as well. If you're like, hey, wow, that player does look pretty good, I want to look at this in more detail as well. Now, when we're counting these players down, you may think, oh, hey, I kind of like this other player better. You think this other player plays better, whatever that is. This is based solely on the statistics and looking at what stats are most important, what stats are valued as the most important stats when looking at your center back players. It also is very focused on versus attack, because when you look at head-to-head, a lot more different strategies are involved. You want someone basically who can stop the opponent from cross spamming or, you know, going over the top, which is a bit of a difficult thing to do. So you pretty much just want them to be really tall and jump really high and, you know, just be really good at heading. But when we're looking at versus attack, there's a lot of key things that you want in your defenders and some of the big key stats that you want to look at when looking at determining the top 10. So those are the stats that got weighted most heavily in the algorithm to try and calculate who was the best defender when we're looking at the top 10. Now, one of the big features that both Djmixfoo and Aris looked at when counting this down was the anti-stun rating. So the anti-stun rating, they talked about the stun feature that was put into this new season back at the beginning of the season when they released this document talking about all the new features and stuff that was going on in the game. When looking at the stun rating from the document that basically breaks this all down, they've looked at the stun calculation. And so this is between the dribbles and the defenders of basically how easy it is to get past the defender. How much sort of that, you notice that time when it's kind of that delay when you do the skill move before the defender kind of reacts. And it's based on the dribbler's dribbling, ball control, and agility, and it's based on the defender's marking, interceptions, and reactions. So when calculating the anti-stun, or the defender's ability to not get stunned by the attackers, is one of the biggest and most heaviest things that was looked at in calculating the top 10, because this is something that's super important. So the marking, interceptions, and reactions are 3 very important stats when we're looking at this. Both of them went after separate strategies to sort of decide which they felt was the most valuable stats, all of those things. But you look at the top defenders are the top defenders no matter which one of them calculated. And even when we've played in-game with these players, I've done a lot of gameplay and head-to-head with some of these top players, and personally I've found just playing against them, playing with them, that these are actually some of the top defenders. So even if I look at it for myself, I would say a lot of the top players are the top players that I found in head-to-head and versus attack. And obviously as you get down and the players start to get closer and closer, you're going to start to see maybe a bit of like, okay, well, maybe second should be third and fourth and all those things. But we're going to get into this. We're going to break it down. We're going to count down the top 10 defenders in FIFA Mobile 20. So number 10 on the list, we have Maldini and his icon card. If you're trying to pick this card up right now, the only way to get him is through the point icon pack. But I've opened a lot of these icon point packs, and I gotta tell you, it is probably not a great way to try and get this Maldini card because your luck in this, you're gonna have some insane luck and if you want to try and pack the 97 overall players there. I think our best hope is that they find another way to bring him back through the SBC, but also as the 10th ranked center back, there's a lot of better options that you can get, and a lot cheaper options that you can get if you're looking at doing this free to play as well. But if you do have him on the team, he is a very strong center back icon. He does have a fairly strong anti-stun rating, ranking in here at 395, only 2 points below the man who comes above him in 9th place. And if we look at his ranking compared to some of the average center backs, he would fall about 1.5 standard deviations above the mean. Now, it's not a normal distribution with this, but that kind of gives you an idea that he would be pretty much, if we're looking at this, a little bit better than the average players, but nothing compared to some of these top players that we're gonna have. The ninth place card that we have in here is Sergio Ramos, his team of the season La Liga card, coming in at ninth place. He has the marking boost. He's got an anti-stun rating of 397. Now, this team of the season card, the big downside of this team of the season card, and especially playing in games with both the team of the season card, playing with the player of the month card, those ones, there's not a huge difference unless you just love the look of the card art on this team of the season so far La Liga card from Sergio Ramos. He's gonna cost you about 40 million coins as well, so if you're looking at value for your money, he's probably not gonna be the highest value for your money, especially if you're comparing him to the other ones. He's only going to be 1.6 standard deviations above the average, so not that much higher than some of the other ones, especially because he's got a lot of cards that are going to be in and around that range as well. So if you're looking for an upgrade to a Ramos card, he's probably not worth the money that you would spend on him, again, unless you just really love the team of the season so far card art, but definitely a lot of higher ranking players that are going to get a better budget. Alright, so our number 8 card is Virgil Van Dijk, the team of the season EPL card. He has the holding boost, a 405 anti-stun rating. He's about 1.8 when we're looking at standard deviation above the rest. And this is actually an interesting one because the team of the season so far, Van Dijk card, is actually closer in his rating to the 26th place card than he is to the top. So once we start to get above this 8 card going into 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, we start to see a massive increase in the statistics that you have with this card. So if we're looking at the cost of this Van Dijk card, we can get him for about 25 million depending on your market. Now, it's a bit better of a deal than the team of the season so far Ramos card, and part of the reason for that is the Ramos card, he's a 101 overall, but also the Ramos card was in the chain packs, so there's a little less amount of people being able to claim him versus the Ramos card, where most free-to-play players could get a 100 overall card from the team of the season so far promo. So we do see a bit of a lower cost on the 100 overall cards. He's got some decent looking all around stats, but again, he's a little bit farther away from sort of that top performing card. Move now into number 7. Number 7, we have Raphael Varane. This card is looking like on the mark for most of them be around 31 million, but the interesting thing about this card is if you compare him to the team of the season so far card, even though the team of the season so far card starts with a higher overall rating than this card, it actually ends up, once you start leveling them up, this card is a whole lot better than this one. In fact, he is almost double as good as his original team of the season so far card. He has a 2.0 standard deviations above the average, whereas his 14th place card is only 1.1 above the average. So quite a bit better than his team of the season so far card, despite having the lower rating. And a big advantage of this card is while he does have a little bit of a lower anti-stun rating than the Van Dijk card, 401 versus 405, he's also got that advantage where he has really good sprint speed. He has a boost to his standing tackling, to his balance, to his marking, to his interception and sprint speed. So he's got the right boost in there to help with the anti-stun rating. Plus, he has that sprint speed boost. So he has 111 acceleration when he's at his base 100 overall, and he's got some really good sprint speed as well that he would have in there. So it's a pretty good all-around card that you would have with this Varane card. And this, again, is where we start to make some big jumps when we're looking at moving into the top. Coming in at number 6, we have Hummels, his ultimate team of the season card. Again, same anti-stun rating as Raphael Varane, with 401 as the anti-stun rating, and pretty close in the standard deviation, 2.1 above the normal there. Again, he's looking really good when he's talking about some of his marking, his balance, his aggression, his heading, his interceptions. He falls a little bit short when it comes to his acceleration. He is a bit slower in acceleration, so I think that that's one of those ones, especially if you're looking at playing in head-to-head, he might not be on the same level as that Varane card, because with the acceleration, he might not be able to catch up to other players as quickly as possible, because again, acceleration is how fast you get to your top speed, and your sprint speed is your top speed that you would have. So if you're trying to get past those players doing quick moves on you, he might have a little bit of difficulty compared to the Varane card going in with this, but he does fall into our 6th place position. And again, he is the highest Bundesliga card that we have in our center back rating, and for only 25 million coins, he is a bit cheaper than some of the options. In fact, a lot cheaper than the Ramos option, almost half the price of Sergio Ramos to get this Hummels card. But the one thing you do want to keep in mind when we're doing this is a 99 overall, so it will cost you a little bit of coins if you want to boost him up to that 103 overall rating, boost up those skill boosts as well. Alright, so coming in at number 5, we have the Team of the Season De Vrij card, 130.5 on his rating. Now, I haven't actually used this card in-game, and talking with the Aris, it seems that this is one that is a bit debatable being in this 5th place spot. He doesn't necessarily have the in-game stats and in-game performance. Some people don't think that he necessarily lives up to the stats that he has in-game, but he does have the highest anti-stun rating of these 3 cards. So he is also a bit cheaper than some of the other ones, coming in at under 20 million coins right now. So even though he is a 99 overall card, you might have to level him up a little bit. He is cheaper than some of the other cards when you're going through it. So it is one of the careful considerations to put is how much coins you're willing to spend for some of these top center back cards. But he is in our number 5 spot based on the statistics as we go through and move into the top 4 positions. Okay, so now that we move into the top 4 positions, we're really starting to get into these mass differences in the standard deviation. Number 4 is going to be Coman. He has 2.5 standard deviations above the mean. So we're starting to get into these really, really big performing cards here. Now, of course, this is a card that would cost you, and you can't even get it anymore unless they come out with program packs, but if you got it at the time, would probably cost you around $1,000 to pick this card up. So yes, he is in the 4th position, but definitely it is a card that is reserved for the major pay-to-play crowd. Great cards, and you can see there's a big step down from the top 2 versus 3 and 4, which is really interesting about this is if we look at our 4th place Coman card, one of the first prime icon center backs in the game, he seemed like he was going to be this stand above the rest card, but even sometimes I played in game with him in head-to-head, he wasn't the card that I thought I would be playing against. Not often in position, and in fact, some people had told me that they actually preferred playing him in the striker position. Number 3 spot, the prime icon Puyol. This is a card that I actually picked up recently. One of the downsides is, well, there seems to be a glitch and he doesn't actually have his hair in game. But the other thing about this is he's still a little bit lower than the top 2 cards. He's at 2.8 above the standard deviation. When we get into the top 2, you're going to see why this is such a big deal, only being at 2.8 in this one. Another card that's probably going to cost you $700-800 as well. So again, very pay to play with the card that you're looking for. I've used him in game and head-to-head. I've liked him in game and head-to-head. Is he my favorite card? I don't think so. One thing that I do like about this card is if you're surrounding him with other strong cards, if you're surrounding him with your Nestas, your Davies on your left backs, if you're surrounding him with some of the other cards there that have good pace on the wings, it does help with this. Because one thing I find that he does do is he dives into these tackles. He gets himself out of position from time to time because of that speed and that acceleration, which allows the opponents to get past him. So he is a strong card. He is definitely a top card, but he is also definitely a top card for the amount that's going to cost you to get this. Now, the top 2 cards, and the cool thing about these top 2 cards, both cards are available free to play. Now, there may be some arguments about the number 2 card being free to play, given the fact that it's going to cost quite a few coins to finish the necessary SBCs that you're going to need to do this. One of the things to look at with this is what I did when I did this is I went with the lower SBCs and leveled those cards up when I was going, but still, it probably cost me about 100 million coins to get this card completed. Maybe even a little bit more. Probably 150 million coins to complete this card. Will go down a little bit throughout the year, possibly if we get some better, SBCs and stuff like that, if we get other opportunities to get icons. But regardless, it is a very expensive card to pick up, but it is, if you have a lot of coins, technically a free-to-play card that you would have. Stun rating of 412. In fact, he has the highest anti-stun rating of every card in the game. So people have really been asking, is Nesta worth the big spend on training experience and coins? Aris says absolutely. Aris says this is a card that you would 100% want to get. He has the highest anti-stun rating. He's a very well-rounded center back with good in-game performance. Ultimate team of the season, Virgil Van Dijk is better for Verstack in league versus league, but Nesta is almost definitely better for head-to-head. And the fact that you can get him is awesome. Using him in-game, I've actually been quite impressed. One of the things I've really been impressed with is his ability to chase down defenders. And again, I think that if you're looking at Nesta, you're going to want to try and get Nesta in with some other pacey players. The other thing I've noticed about Nesta, especially when it comes to head-to-head, is he takes some time to get used to. Once you find out the strategies that really help you to stop the defenders, you kind of take advantage of his quick ability to close on other defenders, play some of the other formations around with him, he does become a very strong player. So he has 3.2 standard deviations above the average, which means he basically is twice as good as the 10th place card here. So we're looking at a card that is almost double as good as the card that's falling in 10th place. So quite a big difference when we're looking at there. Now, number 1. The ultimate team of the season so far card, Virgil Van Dijk. This card right now is basically well above the rest of the cards in this one. 3.4 standard deviations above the rest, an anti-stun rating of 408. He is the best center back that we've seen in the past 3 seasons. Djmixfoo, who you know as one of the top players for head-to-head, verse attack, all those things in the game, was astounded by how good the card is. The Destroyer boost is actually a really fantastic boost, and in a lot of cases, they felt that it was better than the holding boost, because Destroyer boosts acceleration and aggression versus balance and sprint speed for holding. So what's most eye-opening about this card is the ultimate team of the season so far, Virgil Van Dijk, is better than any of the prime icons in the game right now. And not just that, ultimate team of the season so far, Virgil Van Dijk, is better than last year's ultimate team of the season, Virgil Van Dijk, and last year's prime Maldini card. He is that good. He's a card that I've gone against. I've played against him. Most Van Dijk cards I go against are definitely some strong cards. He's a card that I have not done any in-game performance on, but definitely a card I want to try and look at getting. In order to get the card, you're probably looking at almost 60 million for this card. So he's definitely a bit of a more expensive card, looking at the ultimate team of the season so far card, but great all-around stats, and a card that probably is worth a little bit of money that you're going to invest in this Virgil Van Dijk. Well, right there you have it. That is the top 10 center backs in FIFA Mobile. So the statistics were put together by both Aris and Djmixfoo, and putting the different weightings on the stats that they felt were most important to having a defender play well for you in verse attack. So this is very geared towards verse attack. There will be some differences in head-to-head, although when I looked at the list and went through it, a lot of the cards that I really either don't like going up against in head-to-head, or I play with in head-to-head and enjoyed using, did find their way into the spots where I would expect them to be in game. So some interesting results that we had going on there, but let me know in the comments, what would your top 10 center backs be? Do you agree with these ones? Are there players where you think they should be in different positions? Are there players that didn't even make the list that you think deserve a spot on the list? The other thing to keep in mind is that these were calculated at a 100 and overall with a 20 level skill boost. So you might also have to look at the fact that yes, some players might be 18 million, but to get them up to a 100 overall, or to get them up to the same level of the 102, 103 cards, might cost you a little bit more. So when you're looking at this, it had to be put at the same level, so that we kind of compared them on an even playing field in terms of OVR and in terms of skill boost, but that cost might be something that is a bigger impact when you're choosing. So if you're trying to look at one of these cards and say, ooh, I really want to try out this card, you know, there is more to think about than just the fact that they rank as number 1 or rank as number 2. But also let us know, what are the other positions you want to see us review next? Did you enjoy this? If you did, make sure to smash that like button, share this out, and go read the entire article. It's an amazing article breaking down all of these different things, really in-depth details of the way the analytics were put together by Aris over on Reddit. There's a link to that in the description below. It shows some of the sort of calculations that they used, the stats that they thought were important, and all of those things as well. You can also go and join over and friend them up on Discord, and go follow Djmixfoo for the full player reviews as well. The other cool thing that came up though is that even though Djmixfoo and Aris looked at their stats separately and decided on which stats they thought were important separately, we sort of got these 3 tiers of players. So we have this top tier of players that had our top 2 performers on here, Prime Icon Nesta and Ultimate Team of the Season so far, Van Dijk. This put them into their own tier of players. Puyol was pretty close to this, but when you start to look into the tier 2 players, there's a big difference, as you can see in the graph here, between that tier 1, that tier 2, and that tier 3. So when we're looking at these players, there may be a little bit of difference as you start to go lower and lower, especially below that top 10, but at the top, both players agreed that the top 2 cards were well deserving of this tier 1 level of cards. So again, let me know what you think. Who would be your top performer that you've used in game, whether it's burst attack, whether it's head to head, whether it's league versus league? Let me know that in the comments below. But thank you for checking this out. Thank you for stopping by. And again, big thank you to Aris and Djmixfoo for helping us put this video together so that we could share this with you. Make sure to share this out so you can see more of these in the future. It's been a pleasure as always. Stopde.